I came across a video on social media just recently that kind of surprised me a little bit. In a way, it was a guy who was from Ukraine, I think, or I'm pretty sure he said Ukraine, and he was living in New Zealand, had been there for a few years, and he was wondering about, talking about the problem with New Zealand people, that they were very unfriendly lot, and I think he was suggesting that, well, it was a warning that if you were a man and you were from another country, New Zealand wasn't the place to go because you can't meet people there. Obviously, he was lonely, and he said that he felt he was invisible. People just didn't recognise that he even existed. Even other, not just women, but men as well. Like, he just felt that that was where he was in a very difficult, lonely place. And it seemed he was obviously unhappy with his situation, to say the least. He gave a couple of examples in his little talk on his video, particularly about, one of them was in relation to dating, where he went to a singles bar and or an event, I think it was, for singles. And he described how he found a good spot at the bar somewhere and where he could sort of be seen and so on. And that didn't work. No one sort of recognised him. Nobody made eye contact or gave him any encouragement. He found another place. He moved to another spot in the same bar, and still no one made any eye contact or gave him any encouragement to talk to them or anything like that. And he talked about the women in particular, and not in a particularly good way in some ways. I thought he was a little bit judgmental, saying that there were women there who had been approached by several other men. He didn't approach them. I don't know why, but anyway, he didn't. And other men approached them, but they were all, from his observation, sort of told to go away. And he thought, well, that doesn't seem right. I mean, these women aren't exactly supermodels, as he described them. And he was less than complimentary about their appearances, which is not a good thing either, I suppose. So that was an interesting situation. And he gave another example, because he had been talking about that he was interested in camping, that he was an interesting guy, that he had a good job. He said that he was good looking, although I think he should have left that up to others to determine. Nonetheless, he liked the outdoor life. He was fit. He liked camping and doing outdoor things and so on. Sort of got the impression that he felt that he was a bit of a catch, actually, and someone worth knowing. And yet people didn't know him, didn't seem to want to know him. Well, that brings me to what you might wonder, has anything got to do with Occam's razor? In fact, what is Occam's razor? And what has it got to do with having a happy life? Well, it turns out that there was a guy called William. Now, William, and he lived in a village in England in the 12th, 13th century. This village was called Occam. And instead of being Neville from New York or Sydney from Sydney, he was William of Occam. Well, because he was a philosopher and he worked for the church and so on, he developed this hypothesis that in an argument of a scientific or a philosophical argument, discussion in that terms of argument, that the one that required the fewest assumptions was the one that was most likely to be correct, as an answer to that philosophical question that it may be. So it wasn't necessarily the case, but it was most likely that the one that had the fewest assumptions. And so the razor part in philosophy comes from the shaving off of, speaking of shaving off any of the assumptions, unnecessary assumptions, that would be required to make the argument. If you shave those off, then what you got left with is most likely the explanation. Now, according to this guy that made this video, he felt that the 5,338,000 New Zealanders that live on those two islands, the North and South Island, he said that they are unfriendly. That's his assumption. Well, I suggest that it's probably more likely that he didn't understand how friendship works, the methodology of friendship. And I don't think he's alone in that. I think there are more than one person that doesn't really understand how friendship works. Even though we have friends, we don't necessarily understand how it works. I'm pretty confident from the way that he spoke that his idea of friendship is something that people give you. So he was out there looking for people to give him friendship, and he wasn't succeeding. It just didn't happen that way. The reality is that friendship is not something that you get from other people so much as what you give to other people. You give them friendship, and then what you get in return, is what he was looking for, is a reflection of your giving. Now, in this particular case, he didn't like the reflection. So that's what he was really complaining about, even though he doesn't realize it. He was thinking, no, all these people are unfriendly. If you thought about this giving of friendship, you'd say, well, that's fine, but how do you go about doing that? Well, giving friendship is by acting in the way that a friend would act towards you. A friend would be happy to see you, like a dog wagging his tail. Not you need to do that, but you know what I mean. A friend is happy to see you. So there's a big difference between a friend coming up to say hello and just an acquaintance, someone you don't particularly know. So instantly there's a difference there straight away. A friend would ask you what you're doing, how you're going, what are the things that you're engaged in at the moment. They would ask about previous events that you're aware of, that they were things that they were trying to achieve, places they were going, holidays they were having, or vacations, however you want to say it. And there'd be a number of things that you could do along those lines that would demonstrate that you were now acting as a friend. And it's surprising how fast people come to recognize you as a friend by your actions and by what you're giving them. If you're giving them your time without you're giving them your opinion, that's even better. Because what people really want to talk about, to be honest, is themselves. That's their main interest. That's a natural trait of humans, that we want to talk about our interests, of course. Well, as a friend, if you are talking about their interests, they're happy to talk all day. And if you are in the least bit complimentary about the way that they manage their life and the things that they do and the way that they communicate and that sort of thing, they're going to be very pleased to hear that. And if they're pleased to hear it in just your company, believe me, they are super pleased to hear that in general company. So where there are other people around and they hear their opinion or their achievements being spoken about in a favourable way by you, then they're sure as hell going to want you around every time in this company, because obviously that makes them happy. So you are giving them. You don't have to be disingenuous about it or anything like that. I mean, genuinely give them friendship. And what you get in return is a reflection of that. I'm pretty sure that the guy that made the video didn't understand the concept. Now, yeah, I understand that he was lonely, sure, and I have some sympathy for that. Loneliness is something that's extremely common these days. More so, well, I suspect it's always been common, but seems to be even more so these days. And I can understand that he was miserable and unhappy, and he was sort of venting his spleen a little bit about how it was everyone else's fault. But when you think about it, the people that he was in contact with, some of those people would be shy, some would be introverted, some of them may be wary of strangers. You can understand that. Some of them perhaps had been injured before in relationships or in strangers that they'd met or whatever. They could just simply lack self-confidence. So there's a whole host of reasons why they would not be trying to make contact with you, trying to make eye contact and encourage you. There's a whole host of those reasons. So I can understand that he didn't get what he wanted, but then he didn't give what they wanted. So you can understand how this came about. This is only a short video because I didn't want to belabor this point too much. But I think if you subtract the 5,338,000 assumptions about the people living on these two islands, the North and South Island of New Zealand, then you're left with the final assumption that I've made, being the most likely, is that he just doesn't understand how friendship works, that it's giving first and then seeing the reflection. Matter of fact, I'm pretty confident that William of Occam would probably see it that way as well. Finally, I'm not going to go on about this particular subject any more than other to mention that Occam's razor is one of, or part of a series that I'll be doing on logical fallacies. And there's a whole host of those that help you understand other people, and that helps you understand, or helps you with your happy life, understanding other people and having lots of friends and that sort of thing. If you understand logical fallacies and arguments, then that's one of the hundreds of things that we talk about in the book. Not that I'm suggesting you have to race off and go to Amazon or anything like that. Eventually, we're going to cover all of these subjects, and they cover a whole host of things that include love and trust and travel and money and owning your own home and a whole host of other things that all part and parcel of enjoying a happy life. And we're going to cover all those subjects as time goes on, so you don't have to race out and buy the book. That's a given. Okay, that's it for this week. I think there's. Oh yes, if you make a like on this video, then other people will be shown the video, and you might be helping someone else who doesn't really understand how friendship works. Or if you were to share it with them directly, of course, you could do that as well. Also, if you subscribe, all those things I was just talking about will come up in these future videos. So hopefully, if you hit the subscribe button, then YouTube will give you that will come up on your timeline, and you'll be able to see them when they pop up. And usually it's once a week. Anyway, that's it for this time. I hope I'll see you next week. Cheers.